There we go. Oh my God. All right. Now how are we on TikTok? I know. How's it now? How's it now? Actually, YouTube as well. There we go. No, I don't know. It's very complicated, the setup here, because with a good microphone and everything, and it disconnected the booster from the electricity and the blah, 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 blah. So this is what happens when you're your own sound man. I may watch Tucker Carlson's interview. I haven't decided. I mean, I'm going to watch clips from it later, of course, but I haven't quite decided if I'm going to watch it. I think it's going to make me sick if I watch it. Tucker Carlson. So Tucker Carlson tonight, I think it's released tonight, is releasing the interview he did yesterday with Vladimir Putin. And Carlson, you may know, is a top far-right American propagandist. He worked at Fox News, thank you, Marie, until he was fired after his lies helped lead to a $780 million judgment in court against Fox News for defamation because Tucker lied, as did a number of the rest of the hosts, about the election, claiming Trump won the election and there was massive fraud. He lied. He knew he was lying. The internal messages from Fox News showed Tucker knew he was lying. He's a liar, but he's also a fascist. And he is his two biggest men, I would say, that he likes, actually three, thank you, Amanda, that Tucker likes to promote. One, Donald Trump. Two, Viktor Orban in Hungary. And three, Vladimir Putin. His three big people that he likes to promote. Tucker thinks Vladimir Putin walks on water. Thank you, Jen. He thinks it's great what Putin did in Ukraine. He thinks the Ukrainians deserved it. He thinks we should just let the Russians finish it. He thinks Zelensky's created, a police state in Ukraine. Thank you, Ali. Taken all the money for himself and created a police state. I mean, this is the kind of, okay, it's not crazy. It's crazy like a fox. Thank you, John. He's a liar, and he's a corrupt liar. So anyway, he did an interview with Putin because he said that no one was listening to Putin and no one wanted to hear the real reason Putin invaded Ukraine. So Tucker thank you, Christine. So Tucker invited Putin to an interview so he could tell the real reason Putin invaded Ukraine. He said before, he's on Putin's side. He said it before. So that's why a lot of people are not happy Tucker's doing this, because it's un-American, it's anti-American, it's fascist, it's sick. He is the man who was the top journalist, he's not a journalist, excuse me. He was the top host at Fox News here in America, which is the top Republican broadcast company, but it really was the top guy in the States in general. I mean, he's the top propagandist. He's very good. I mean, he's akin to Goebbels. He's good. He knows what he's doing. He is a traitor. But, you know, in America, we have freedom of speech, which you're allowed. I mean, you're allowed to put yourself out there for a dictator if you want. A lot of people make a lot of money that way. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, Marie. Right? A lot of people make a lot of money Hing around for dictators, right? But nonetheless, so then just to add to the fun, not only did Tucker interview Vladimir Putin, he met today with Edward Snowden, that traitor, and Tara Reid, which was my favorite. Now, Tara Reid, I have to tell you guys what. Tara Reid is this woman who claimed Joe Biden sexually assaulted her. Well, let me read you something from Politico. You all need to go and find a report that Politico, which is a very good political news publication, thank you, Adventurers, did about Tara Reid, an article they did about her. The article about Tara Reid, so Tara Reid comes out and with the 2020 election, I think, decides suddenly she's been molested by Joe Biden 30 years ago and she's coming clean. Thank you, McCobb. The problem for Tara is she's according to her friends and colleagues for 30 years, she's a habitual grifter. She's a liar, they say. She's a scammer, they say. I want to read you literally like the first two lines of the article, the headline of the Political piece about Tara Reid. Thank you, Christine. Listen to this. The headline is called, the headline in Political about Tara Reid, manipulative, deceitful, user. Tara Reid left a trail of aggrieved acquaintances A number of those who crossed paths with Biden's accuser say they remember two things about her. She spoke favorably about her time working for Biden, and she left them feeling duped. You've got to Google this article. It's in Political. Just do Tara Reade, Readetara, Joe Biden, and Politico, Politico. It is a wild article. Well, this woman ends up, here we go, even better, defecting to Moscow a couple of years ago because it's no longer safe in America for her. Guys, no one cares about Tara Reade. No one believed Tara Reade's allegations. I mean, literally, the media didn't cover them because she's woo-woo, and everybody knows it. I mean, quite literally, you've got to read the article about her. This is not a Me Too. This is a you've lost it kind of thing. And she literally defected to Moscow because it was too dangerous for her to live in the West with everything she's seen and everything she knows. I mean, I actually feel bad for her, even though I think she's a nut job. Because, I mean, imagine the surprise. Thank you, Jonathan. It reminds me of The Americans, the TV show. Imagine the surprise she got moving to Moscow. I mean, at least she's got a toilet, unlike 23% of Russians. I mean, imagine. In any case, so Tucker Carlson met with her today, too, with Tara Reade. Whatever. Anyway, all right, back to the Ukraine news. So anyway, welcome, guys. I'm John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show I do talking about the latest news from Ukraine. I do it from Washington, D.C. This is my full-time job. Somebody had asked last night. I'm apparently not making that clear. Thank you, Ava. I do this full-time. This is how I make a living. This is how I pay my mortgage and my electrical bill. So that is why I ask you for gifts and say, if you can afford to give me gifts on TikTok, on YouTube, the memberships you do with Ko-fi and with Patreon and everything else. Thank you, Courtney Martin. If you can afford to do it, I'd appreciate it because I can use your help. So thank you. Thank you, Magical and Bryce. All right. Today's day 714 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. We are almost at the 2-year mark, by the way. Thank you, Running and Big Hawk. Oh, Aflac, who got the duck? Jen, thank you, Jen, for the Aflac. We are almost at the 2-year mark. Ukraine was invaded on February 24th, 2022. Today is February 8th, so 16 days away. Zelensky, so the big news today, thank you, Lamb Chop, is that I was right. Zelensky fired Zaluzhny, who's the top general for the war. He's replaced him with a general named, is it Syrskyi? I've got to look at my notes here. I didn't even write it down. I think it's Syrskyi. And interesting, actually, because the general he replaced him with, thank you, Sean, was born and raised in Russia and moved to Ukraine as a child and stayed and became Ukrainian. But all of his family is still back in Russia, like a lot of his family. So very weird. Very weird. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this. A lot of people credit, rightly, Zaluzhny, who was the general that just got fired, for a lot of Ukraine's successes to date in the war. Syrskyi is not well loved. A lot of people are not thrilled about Syrskyi. I'm just saying there's a lot of controversy about this. Now, Zaluzhny literally was at like 90% in the polls. Zelensky's like in the 60s, 70s. So Zaluzhny, the general that just got let go, walks on water in Ukraine. So that's going to be part of the issue here. I will say, clearly, if Zelensky got rid of him, there's a reason he got rid of him. Okay, it's and the other point I've made before too. Zaluzhny handled this horribly, absolutely horribly. When Zelensky went to him and said, you're gone, I'm relieving you of command, Zaluzhny reportedly said no. And he stayed for another 2 weeks. Thank you, Triff. Remember, these rumors were out there, not even rumors, reports were out there 2 weeks ago, and actually a week and a half ago. And everyone said, it's a lie, it's a lie. Well, it looks now like it was true. Thank you, Simon. Zelensky tried to replace him, and the general said no. In a democracy, you don't say no. In a democracy, you say yes, sir, and you leave. That's the way it works. That's the way it especially works if you want to be a member of the European Union or of NATO. You don't play games with democracy. You don't tell the commander-in-chief, I'm not leaving. That's a coup. And that makes you a traitor. So, and I mean, I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Zaluzhny may have been a great general. he may have accomplished great things for Ukraine, and then he crossed a major line by committing treason. I mean, there's no other word for it. You don't, and I will tell this to my Ukrainian friends, you don't become a member of NATO if your military acts like that, because it means you're not a developed economy. You're not a developed country. You're an underdeveloped country if your military acts that way. And you literally cannot be a member of NATO. This set you back so far in terms of what the perception is now of Ukraine's military. Thank you, Christine. For NATO purposes, you just can't be a member of NATO if you act this way. So again, in any case, all right, so that's the story. So Zelensky replaced the top general with another top general who is not well loved in Ukraine. So let's see what happens. Reuters, Russian troops are engaged in fighting with Ukrainian forces inside the beleaguered town of Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine. This is the town I mentioned a couple days ago that a lot of the experts were saying that the Russians may in fact take it now because of the Americans cutting off aid. That U.S. aid being cut off has so diminished the amount of ammunition the Ukrainians have that Avdiivka probably is going to be the first city to fall. And it's going to fall because the Americans cut, and I should say the MAGA Republicans in Congress cut off Ukraine. Ukrainian money, our aid to Ukraine's gone. It's over. It's dead. Donald Trump ordered it to be killed because Donald Trump has some weird thing with Russia and has another weird thing with Ukraine. But especially with Russia, Trump ordered it to be killed. And all the other Republicans, MAGA said, yes, sir, in the House. And all the other Republicans in the Senate who aren't MAGA said, yes, sir. Donald Trump wants Ukraine dead. He got it. So, it was funny. Actually, I did a video on TikTok today because I had a couple of people. Why are you making this political? I really liked your Ukraine coverage, but now it's political. Well, up until now, we were able to report on Ukraine, and I was able to very happily say that Republicans and Democrats were together supporting Ukraine. But now the Republicans have knifed Ukraine in the back. Literally, American aid to Ukraine is zero right now. There is no military aid. There is no financial aid. It's gone. It's gone. Republicans killed it. Donald Trump ordered it dead. And MAGA Republicans in the House killed it. And Republicans in the Senate, who are the normal ones, said, Donald Trump said so, what am I going to do? I'm afraid. So that's why we talk about Republicans and Ukraine now, because Republicans went from being the heroes to being the enemy. Republicans are now siding with America's enemies, and they are trying to kill Ukraine and hand it to Russia, America's longtime enemy. And by the way, and Russia's our enemy again. If you don't know it, just wait. But the Russians have become the Soviets yet again. So, in any case, the U.S. Senate voted to proceed with a stripped-down version of aid for funding for Ukraine and Israel today. It's not going anywhere. At least they were able to proceed to the bill, but they're debating it. Republicans themselves aren't even sure what to do at this point. Folks, tell Carlos to maybe leave and come back, or if he's on YouTube, refresh the page, because that can help fix the sound. I would not expect things to go anywhere real fast. Republicans in the House have said, because Donald Trump told them, do not pass Ukraine aid. They're not passing Ukraine aid in the House. It's not happening, guys, U.S. House. It doesn't matter what the Senate does. And a lot of the senators are also thinking, why should I put my neck out and vote for Ukraine when Trump has told everybody not to, when the Republicans in the House aren't going to pass it anyway, right? It's bad. Interestingly, though, aid for Iran is going to get tied up with this. Oh, the trolls, by the way, folks on TikTok, the trolls are here because of Tucker Carlson. That happened last night. The Russians have got a whole sort of thing going now to defend Tucker Carlson because he is their guy. I mean, he's Putin's propagandist. I mean, he's an anti-American propagandist. And the Russians are like all over social media defending him. And especially on our show last night and tonight, it was all Russian trolls, and they were all here because of Tucker. So that's why you're seeing a lot of crazy stuff, because it's all the paid trolls. So, which is good though, because honestly, I guess we're still relevant, guys. Thank you, Flower Lady. Oh, Super Bowl! I didn't see there was a Super Bowl. That there were Super Bowl gifts on TikTok. That's funny. Did not see that. Oh, Team Monet, you are so cute with the disproven conspiracy theories. We're still doing that one? Oh, moderators. That Team Monet person is a total freaking troll. Not even close. I will give you credit, though, for bringing up a totally unrelated troll topic. That was good. Trying to picking up old talking points. Russia and Ukraine exchanged 100 prisoners of war today, each side. That's good, 100 each side. Ukrainian hackers, more good news, Ukrainian hackers breached a number of Russian drone control programs. According to the Kyiv military intelligence unit, the operation prevented Russian forces from accessing the drones and stopped them from being able to configure control panels, capture videos, or fly the drones from a computer system. That's nice. So, again, what the heck, right? Ukraine's done a good job on that. What else we got? The European Union. Oh, yeah. European Union is looking at a new sanctions package. Well, and I'm going to keep saying Tucker Carlson. Whenever I say Tucker Carlson, the trolls have obviously got software or whatever it is out there that they can scan things. So Tucker Carlson brings all the trolls in. So let's get our traffic up. Tucker Carlson. Putin. Tucker Carlson. Anyway. There, it's working. See, so we got a few more now. Excellent. There we go. See? Oh, see, they're back. Sorry, mods. I love watching them literally jump in. Thank you, Natalia. What else we got here? Oh, new EU sanctions package. So this is good. European Union is looking at a new sanctions package that will target individuals and firms involved in the production of Russian weapons and key technologies used by the Russian defense companies. This is according to Bloomberg. I already mentioned Tucker and Tara Reid and Snowden. He met with them today because meeting with Putin wasn't enough. He had to meet with a literal traitor and then a lunatic. Congratulations. This was kind of bad too. Sky News reported today that a number of top legislators from the Baltic states are here in Washington today. And thank you. Who is that with the gift? Thank you, Natalia, for the gift. Do keep the guys coming, folks. Please do. Thank you, Dom. As I said, remember, this is my full-time job, and I've been doing it full-time since the war broke out. This is how I literally make my money, or don't make my money. So it very much helps me out when you guys give the gifts. Or frankly, if you want to do more, go to aravosis.com. You guys can find the Linktree link in my profile on TikTok. You guys just go to aravosis.com and you will see my Discord, my Patreon, lots of different Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, lots of different ways you can help out. So please do if you can. All right. So yes, the Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee. Oh, thank you for the glasses there. Who is that flower lady? The Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee chairs. So the heads of the Foreign Affairs Committee of multiple legislatures, multiple parliaments in Europe, including Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Sweden, and Denmark. So the Baltic countries and then some of the Scandinavian countries. Iceland and Norway, too. Oh, it's a lot of them, Iceland and Norway. We're in Washington today to try to talk to American legislators, as parliamentarian to congressmen, about the importance of supporting Ukraine and their concerns about this war turning into a much bigger war in Europe if America doesn't help. Well, they met with a number of members of the Biden administration. They met with a number of members of Congress, but they especially wanted to talk to Republican members of Congress to tell them, their experience as Europeans on the front line with Russia. Only one Republican member of the House of Representatives agreed to see them. One. Thank you, user, for the train. What's the number now? 216, 217? Or I'm trying to think. What, 218? What's the number now? No, it shouldn't be 218. It should be 219, 220. Number of Republicans in Congress right now. What's the latest number? Because we keep losing them, and there's a special election next week for George Santos. I don't think Alexa's going to know. Alexa, how many Republicans are there in the House of Representatives? Thank you, Radiva. Alexa, how many Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives?
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Oh. Hey, Google, how many Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives? Is it 216? I didn't understand. Okay, they're both idiots. I don't think it's just 216. I think it's 219, like what Hansel's saying. Yeah. I mean, honestly, folks, just Google it. This is a very easy question. It's not 226. That's too many. Not right now. No, no, no. It's got to be more like 219 makes sense, what Callum is saying. Yeah, yeah. Because they've got like a 2 or 3 vote majority, which means 218. Well, not 218. Now it's 1. It was 218. 218 would be just the majority. And they were at 1 or 2 votes ahead. George Santos is gone, so that might put them at 219. If they win next week in New York, that puts them back to 220. Yeah. Thank you, Callum. There's 219 of these guys. Only one of them agreed to meet with the heads of the European. In other words, these are top members of the legislatures in Europe, top foreign affairs members. And the American Republicans refused to meet with them. So, kind of sad. Finland extended its border closure with Russia today. Finland's closed the border for several months now because the Russians have been playing a really cute game with immigrants coming across the Russian border and basically driving them to Finland and just throwing them in. I mean, not literally throwing them in, but practically. There were about 900. Thank you, Carl Vincent. Very sweet of you. Carl Vincent, I think, just renewed his membership. Thank you. Appreciate that. Or just said hi. It could be, you could have just said hi too. I'm not sure which, but thank you, Carl. I appreciate it. So the Russians have been basically throwing migrants across the border from Somalia, from I think Syria, Middle East, other places. And they're trying to basically create immigration crises in Europe because they know immigration, like in America, right? Immigration is a hot issue, especially illegal immigration. I mean, that's what we're talking about, is the illegal stuff. So they basically were trying to like force people across the border, which they've done before via Belarus with, Belarus to Poland, I want to say. They've been doing it before. So Finland finally had enough, and Finland just closed the border with Russia, which you got to give them credit. I love the Finns. The Finns are the newest member of NATO. The Finns just literally said, okay, we're closing our border. Now what? Right? You wanted all these people? Now you got them, Russia. Congratulations. So the Finns just continued the border closure for another 2 months. United Nations has urged Russia to end the forcible transfer of children from Ukraine to Russia. Thank you, Patty. Very nice gift. As you guys know, the United Nations indicted Vladimir Putin, not United Nations, but the International Court of Justice indicted Vladimir Putin for war crimes, and it could be genocide if it can be proven to a very large degree, but for kidnapping Ukrainian children and stealing them from Ukraine as part of the war, bringing them to Russia and literally turning them into Russians. Giving them to Russian families. It's sick. The Ukrainians say as many as 20,000 have been taken. The International Court of Justice found enough proof to indict Putin on a war crime for stealing these children. Okay, that's how significant this is. Because I always say, and I say this too, I think when you talk to the parties involved in Russia versus Ukraine, it's not a bad idea to have with Russia literally. Everything Russia says is a lie. Literally. Everything the Russian government says is a lie. So when they say something, you absolutely should be skeptical. But when Ukraine says stuff, they're in a war. I like a little verification when Ukraine says stuff. Court of Justice at The Hague. It's the people who investigate war crimes. Thank you, Jeddah. Right? These guys are the experts. They investigated and they said the Russians are basically, I wouldn't say that Putin's guilty, but we've got more than enough effort to indict Putin, and we did. So there. One more story. Now, this is kind of a weird story. Human Rights Watch came out with a report on Mariupol. Mariupol is in southeastern Ukraine. It's the city where the Azov battalion guys and gals were holed up for 2 months against the Russians, where 2,000 Ukrainian fighters held off 14,000 Russians. It's also the city where the Russians bombed that theater that had the word children written on the outside in Russian and Ukrainian, so that the Russians would know, don't bomb, we've got children hiding here. The Russians bombed it, killed hundreds. It's this town where the Russians bombed the maternity ward of the hospital that killed the pregnant mom who actually just gave birth and killed her, or she just gave birth right after it killed her. That's Mariupol. Human Rights Watch did a study of what they could. They say at least 8,000 Ukrainians were killed by the fighting by the Russians. Now, I will say that number is probably a little low because, Mariupol's population reportedly decreased from around 400,000 to 100,000 during the Russian invasion. That's a hell of a lot of people. And you had 100,000 that still tried to stay in Mariupol, even with everything. The Russians cut off the water, they cut off food, they cut off electricity. I have a hard time believing it's only 8,000. Hard time believing it, but who knows, you know? All right, I am going to get my map because Callum's right. I've not brought out the map in a while. Hang on. Let's get the map. You can, even though I'm not much of a drinker, you can blame it on dry January. I was trying to protect you all. So, the map. Mariupol, all the way down here, okay? And keep in mind, right, Russia controls all of this. So it's right in the middle of Russian-controlled territory down here, okay? All right. That is it for the news. There isn't a ton of news today, really. But there you go. So yeah, let's talk. We're early enough that I think we can go and do Discord afterwards, because we could shoot for maybe ending in half an hour, going over and doing Discord. Excuse me. So yeah, let's talk. Let's do the news, guys. Life is good. Thank you, Tula Kiwi. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. Remember, I do this this is my job. This is my job. Another map auction. I should do another map auction. That's a good idea. Yeah, let me do I'll do a quick little note on that map auction. Jeep. There we go. All right. Wrote myself a note. Hopefully I will not lose the note, but that's a good idea. Because we've auctioned the map off before and I signed it and everything. The map is a t-shirt. I think I've told you guys this. You know this. The map is a t-shirt. But we love this map. Thank you, Jay Shez. We love this map. And we have a wonderful map that Eva made as well of Europe. Thank you, Dom. Which I could have shown you before when we were talking about Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, Sweden. Was Denmark included? Maybe. I think Denmark might have been included in terms of the countries that came over here to meet with the Americans, and the Americans refused. Will China's economic collapse help Ukraine? I don't know if they're having an economic collapse. Thank you, Timothy. China's having economic problems, which is good. China's economic problems, thank you, Sherry, certainly help Taiwan, I would say. I think when any country is trying to decide whether to go to war, okay? And I've told you guys this before. If you're considering going to war like China is in Taiwan, you have to decide, A, can I win? B, is it worth winning? Like, how much am I going to lose by winning? Meaning, can I even win this at all? But two, what's it going to take to win? How much money? How many men am I going to lose? How many years is it going to take? And what's the impact going to be internationally? In China's case, you are really worried about what's going to happen with sanctions. Right? What's going to happen? I mean, as little as we've been able to affect Russia, the sanctions have had an impact. And in China's case, because of it's China is an international trade powerhouse. I mean, Russia, what do you get from Russia? Even the vodka you don't get from Russia anymore. We get vodka from Europe, right? Even, Stoli? Even Stoli isn't Russian anymore, really. So there isn't a lot from Russia. Oil and natural gas is what you get from Russia, right? And civil rights, human rights violations. There isn't a lot in nukes. There isn't a lot else, right? So the, sorry, I'm having a moment here. Sorry, I'm like looking around at everything as I'm talking. You know what it is? Every time I look at the comments, which I do like doing, it makes me forget what I'm talking about. So China, yeah. So China has got to be very worried about what will happen to it in terms of international sanctions if it invades Taiwan. And now that the Chinese economy is weaker, it's not doing as well, and there's concerns about the Chinese economy going forward, they are going to be all the more worried about external shocks to that economy, such as an international boycott. So, thank you, Annette. I think you said you subscribed. Is that what you were saying? I'm not sure. If that's what you were saying, thank you. Right? So, it certainly helps Taiwan if China's economy is in trouble. I don't know if it helps Ukraine. I'm not sure if it helps Ukraine. I don't know. Blood Orange is asking about my impression of the new Ukrainian commander. We were talking earlier that Zelensky fired Zaluzhny, who was the general for the first 2 years of the war, and now has picked the man who is, I guess, the head of the Ukrainian ground forces, Syrskyi, I think is his name. I know nothing about the guy. I will tell you there's a lot of controversy about the guy. He's not well loved. He's not well loved in Ukraine. He's not well loved by defense experts I respect on the outside. It's not great. They think he's very political. They think he's a yes man. Not a yes man. They think he's a little bit of a Soviet in his way of handling things, a little bit of a Russian. Thank you, Janice. In that he, like Elon Musk, really, or like Donald Trump, really, you can't tell him no. You can't disagree with him. So people are going to be afraid to tell him the truth, because if they do, he might get mad and do something. I don't know enough about the guy otherwise. Thank you, Jonathan. But a lot of people are worried about him, whether he's good enough. Now, I will say that Zelensky could have wanted Budanov, who's the defense intelligence chief. Budanov is very close with Zaluzhny. Excuse me. Budanov could have said, it's not worth it. Like, why do... Also, Budanov, for all we know, maybe Budanov has political aspirations. If you've got political aspirations, you probably don't want to take the job that Zaluzhny got fired for, because you don't want to be seen as the guy that stole Zaluzhny's job. So politically, I don't know whether Budanov has, or Budanov, I would say Budanov, whether he has political aspirations. If he does, that could be a reason. Second of all, it just isn't worth it for the politics. He might have said, there's too much right now. And Zelensky might have also thought, Budanov is really good at what he does. He's the defense intelligence head, and Putin's tried to kill him like 10 times. He's just really good. I mean, and Budanov is constantly pissing off the Russians, constantly ticking them off, So there you go. Now, Callum says, Callum, who's, by the way, former British military, very recently former, fresh command can have a massive impact on a push forward, different viewpoints, etc. Yes, the concern is that a lot of the troops really like Zaluzhny, who got fired, and they really don't like this guy. So the concern was the impact this is going to have on morale, things like that. I suspect, people are asking, I suspect Tucker is going to put his interview with Putin on Twitter, because he, already got Elon Musk to promise not to censor him. Like Elon Musk was going to censor, not to mention no one. YouTube wouldn't censor an interview with Putin. It's ridiculous. So, Now, good point actually, I do like Callum's response there. It doesn't matter if the troops are upset that you change the command. You don't have to like your command. They aren't your friend. Hey, tell that to my employees at the UN. No, I mean, that's a good point, though. That's a little bit of a participation trophy military you're having, which is, but I don't like my new commander. Well, that's too bad. We're at war. Suck it up. I mean, that's a very good point, actually, because it's the same argument I make to Zaluzhny, which is, I don't really care if you don't want to step down. Your boss fired you, and he's the commander-in-chief, and he was elected by the people in a democratic election that was free and fair. Get the F out of there, because he fired you. Go. It's not your frickin' place to stay. And it's kind of the same thing. It's Zelensky's... The Russians have changed commanders. Have we found the answer? We should Google this and see if they've got a list. The Russians have changed commanders maybe 6 times. 6 or so they've had, possibly more, with the war in Ukraine, because it was going so bad these last 2 years. Gerasimov, who's the current guy, was a previous guy who got kicked out and then brought back because it was so bad. But I mentioned it was so bad that they had to bring one of the previous guys back that they kicked out. So, it is not unusual to change leadership. And frankly, Ukraine is in a position now where they're in a stalemate. They're not just in a stalemate. They are in a stalemate with Russia right now, I think. But it's worse than that. The Republicans, the MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump cut off Ukraine and cut off Ukraine's money. The U.S. is not giving $1 now to Ukraine because of Donald Trump and because of the MAGA Republicans and the Republican Party overall came around and agreed with Trump on this. Ukraine needs to figure out what the heck they're going to do as a result because they're screwed. The Republicans have screwed them. Ukrainian troops are already dying because they don't have enough ammunition because of what Republicans in Congress did, cutting off Ukraine and handing it to Russia. So maybe you do need a new general to come in and new leadership to say, okay, we're in an entirely different situation now. We've still got Europe support, but Europe isn't America. They don't, America is a huge economy compared to Europe, right? Actually, what is the size? Good question there. What is the size of the European economy, the EU, although that leaves out Britain, versus the size of the American economy? Anybody know? I could ask Alexa, but she's going to probably freak out. Alexa, how big is the U.S. economy? Let's see.
In 2022, the GDP in the United States was worth $25,440 billion US.
I think that was, Alexa, turn up your volume. I think that was 25 trillion. Alexa, what's the size of the U.S. economy? 25 trillion, I think.
In 2022, the GDP in the United States was worth $25 trillion.
Okay, Alexa, what is the size of the European Union economy?
From telegraph.co.uk. If treated as a single economy, the European Union is the largest in the world, with an estimated GDP of over 14 trillion euros.
14. America's 25. What does she mean the largest in the world? The U.S. is 25. So the European Union is 14. We're 25. Again, we're almost twice the size. Okay, if that's correct, we are almost twice the size. Our economy is almost twice as big as all of the European Union put together. I mean, right? We are very and the U.S. in terms of the military, in terms of the size of the U.S. military and our weapons, that we're the big guys. We're the big guys. What's going on with U.S. spending? Nothing. The Republicans killed it. It's dead. Quite literally, it's dead. Trump had said, don't do it. Republicans in Congress are afraid to do it. Republicans in the House said they're not doing it. Republicans in the Senate can't decide if they're going to screw over an American ally and help America's enemy by handing and frankly risk causing war in Europe. Euro to dollar, it's pretty close. I mean, there's like what would it be? 7% difference between the dollar and the euro. It's easy just to sort of, 19, but 19 is still smaller though. Oh, did they say euros? She didn't say 14 trillion euros. Alexa, what's the size of the European economy?
From wikipedia.org, the European Union's GDP estimated to be around $19.35 trillion.
Oh, 19 trillion. You guys are right. Okay, it's 9. Alexa, stop. So it's 19 to 25. Okay, that's better. That's better. It's still smaller than the U.S., but it's better. So the U.S. is 25% larger. Yeah, my Alexa said dollars. Nope, my Alexa said dollars. But they're also close enough anyway. Yeah, it's bad. I don't know. I don't know what's up. You'd think Tucker. Well, the thing is, okay, if you're Tucker Carlson, potentially the interview should be released American time. Well, it depends. Typically, you do these things to get news. You might want to release it at like 9 o'clock at night Eastern time U.S. Thank you, Ernie, because that's 8 o'clock in Chicago, 7 o'clock in Arizona, 6 o'clock in California, right? The interview's out. Greg says, okay. Greb says it's out. Is it on Twitter or where is it, Greb? Jaylene says the same. Okay. Oh, that's funny. It came out when I did. Okay, 6 o'clock. Interesting. Okay. But where are they putting it? Just curious. Is it on, he's got a web, it figures he'd put his website. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That makes sense. But I thought he was going to do it on Twitter. That's what I thought. Yeah. I don't know that I want to watch it. I think I may watch the highlights. The highlights I'll watch because, even Goebbels interviewing the H-Man is useful if I'm studying the war, A live hate watch of it, that would be very funny. That'd be very funny. It's been boring so far. Yeah. Blood Orange says, why does the American right wing stand, meaning are they such big fans of Putin? Because of Donald Trump. because he's corrupt. And he's got some weird, corrupt love of Vladimir Putin and the Russians. I'm quite serious. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying that as a partisan. It's all because of Trump. Trump has some weird fixation with Russia. He loves Putin, and he loves Putin to the expense of us. Okay? Thank you, Louis. Trump, remember, go look at that Helsinki summit. Go look at that Helsinki summit. When Trump met with Putin, 2018, I think it was, when he met with Putin at the summit in Helsinki. And they came out, and Trump shocked the world with the answers he gave. He defended Vladimir Putin. He defended Putin having attacked our election. Everybody knows Putin attacked our election. All of the federal agencies, Trump's own appointed officials all said Vladimir Putin attacked our election in 2016 in America. Trump said it didn't happen. He said, I believe Putin, why wouldn't I? He believed him over. There is something wrong with Donald Trump. He has been corrupted by Russia. It's possible Putin has something on him and he's being blackmailed. It's possible Trump just wants money. It's possible Trump is getting money. Who knows, right? But he has been absolutely positively corrupted by Russia. And that's why Trump says, stop funding Ukraine. And the Republicans, because this, right? Because they become a cult. Now, I will say, most political parties, you tend to go along with the leader. You try not to criticize them. Having said that, when the guy literally is siding with your enemy, the Russians, we're talking, this is the Soviet Union, guys. We're talking the world at risk of having World War III. And not because America is helping stop the Russians. We're at risk of World War III because we're not stopping the Russians. And Republicans, and again, Republicans know better. They know better. Republicans, frankly, Republicans used to be better on national security than Democrats. They were the ones who would stand up and fight. They were the ones who would stand up to our enemies. Thank you, R19. It was a lot of the Democrats who were like, oh, let's be nice to the Russians. You guys know this in Europe too, the liberals. It was the people on the left who were like, peace now. They'd march in the street for nuclear disarmament, but they wouldn't march against the Russians. They would march and demand that the West disarm. They never wanted Russia to disarm, right? That was the left. The peacenik left. Now it's the right. And they're just as crazy as the left was. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Have fun, mods. They love this topic. Ah! Now remember, you can always mute people for a day as well. We don't have to just ban everybody. Make them have to come back and increase. Actually, even better, make them have to come back and increase our numbers. So, anyway. Yeah, Magical, there really isn't a new security package for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel. What is happening is Democrats are trying to bring up the border package without the border because Republicans killed their own proposal for the border because Trump told them to, because he wants to have the border open with illegal people illegally crossing for the election. So the Democrats are now trying to pass the legislation without the border. So it's got Israel, it's got Ukraine, it's got aid for Palestinians, etc. And that's it. So it's not really new. It's Democrats are now saying, fine, let's pass this. And I think Republicans are going to say no, because Donald Trump doesn't want to fund Ukraine. Donald Trump wants Russia to win this war. He needs Russia to win this war. We don't know why he needs it, but he needs it. Whether Putin's paying him, whether Putin's blackmailing him, who knows? Whether Trump literally is his ego, which is part of it too. Thank you, Annie. Part of it is that this is Joe Biden's war. The Democrats are defending Ukraine. And in Trump's little mind, and frankly, unfortunately, this is what Republicans have become today because of Trump. Not Republicans overall I have a problem with, but the Trump Republicans, A, Democrats support Ukraine. B, Ukraine must be bad. I must oppose Ukraine. That's it. It doesn't even need to be Trump corrupt. Trump is just going, we need to screw the Ukrainians because Biden likes them. That's it. Everything with Trump, but I think he is being blackmailed, to be honest. But everything with Trump also boils down to his ego. And we've got to hurt the Democrats because they hurt me. It's like, okay, that's good for you. Good for you. Anyway, he's kind of a nut job. Yeah, the president of El Salvador got reelected. I mean, he's got, some interesting crypto ideas and things, but he does seem like he's a wannabe dictator, doesn't he? A little bit. Yeah, he's a little goofy. But I don't know how well things have been going. I don't know how well the economy's going. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know enough about that in El Salvador to know whether maybe he's done a good job. I mean, wannabe dictator and all, but I just don't know. I haven't been paying enough attention the last couple of years. So, I mean, we've talked about Tucker a lot already. I've got to see the interview, but Tucker made clear walking in, Tucker Carlson, top propagandist at Fox News who they got rid of after he was mostly responsible for a $780 million court settlement against Fox because they defamed a company that Tucker knew he was lying about. But he's made clear he's not a journalist. He's made clear he's a paid liar. He's admitted it. He admits he lies. Fox News admits he lies. They defended one of the defamation suits that Tucker was facing, not Dominion, a different one. And the Fox News lawyers got up there and basically said, he's a liar. He's a fabulist. He doesn't tell the truth. And that's the argument they made to the court was you can't hold him responsible for defamation. That would require the viewers believing him. Nobody believes him. They know he's a liar. And the judge said, okay, you're right. He's a liar. And the judge was a Trump-appointed judge. So, who am I? Just a lawyer, went to Georgetown, got a graduate degree at Georgetown as well, worked at the United Nations, worked at the U.S. Senate, worked at the World Bank, speak 5 languages, and have traveled around the world and for the last 35 years. Other than that, I'm really nobody. Did I say I wrote for The Economist as well? Don't remember. So I'm nobody. Who would I like to interview? I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. No, I think Putin would be fascinating to interview, but Putin would not like my interview. He would not like my interview at all. There was a German, I'd love to get it translated. Somebody posted online a German reporter from several years ago interviewing Putin, and unfortunately it's all in German. But you see, and the German speaker said Putin got pissed. And even at one point, he even switched into German because the guy was really pushing him. And you see Putin and like his feet are kind of moving and you see his face kind of going. It was very interesting, but I don't know who the reporter was. Or like I said, it was in German, so I couldn't understand it. But I should have actually gotten my Google Translate and see if it could have. I don't know where it was on Twitter. It flew around Twitter. But I should have gotten my my Google Translate out to translate it. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's thank you, Adventures. It's not safe to do an interview with Putin and actually ask him the truth. They've got, by the way, they've got American reporters in jail. They've got Russian reporters in jail. I mean, Russia's a dictatorship. It's the Soviet Union. It literally is a dictatorship. How did the interview end? I don't know. I didn't see it. What do you mean? Oh, the German one? I mean, it was an hour in German. I didn't watch it, obviously. I watched a part of it, but it's in German. The Wall Street Journal reporter is still trapped there. Yep, they're holding him hostage. Correct. So, yeah, exactly. Interview Putin at The Hague. I'm with you there. How is Russia a dictatorship? Seriously? Okay, political opposition gets thrown in jail. Political opponents get poisoned and killed. Any kind of opponent at all gets, Putin has also had top people who have disagreed with him on the war thrown off of balconies of buildings multiple times. He likes to throw them off of balconies. People who flee, like former KGB guys who have fled the country, he's gone into Europe and poisoned them. They don't have free and fair elections. The top opponent for Putin is Alexei Navalny. He just got put in jail for decades. Oh, Paul, you're adorable. Just like gist. By the way, in English, it's just, not gist. Good try, though. Paul. I like Paul Heath. Paul Heath. Yeah, that's how they say that name now in Russian, Paul? Yeah. Now, how is Russia a dictator? That's how Russia's a dictatorship. It's a country run by one man. The rule of law doesn't matter. Now, I will admit, Paul, you're right. There is a certain candidate for president and former president who operates the same way. that the law doesn't matter. Only the guy matters. He calls for his political opponents to be thrown in jail. You're right. There is some of that here too. Yeah, with Trump, sure. But in Russia, forget it. Yeah. Ridiculous. Oh, that's true. He blew up. I forgot about that. He blew up a guy he didn't like. The guy that tried to overthrow him, he blew up his plane. He just blew up his plane. Yeah, other than that, why are you doing business with China? Well, I'm not doing business with China. But as far as China, I got news for you. Saudi Arabia is a dictatorship too. Just because countries are dictatorships doesn't mean we don't work with them, because we live in a world where we all have to get along or we're all going to kill each other. So yeah, we try to work with dictatorships. But guess what? When the dictatorship is trying to, overthrow our elections, then I got a problem with it. Yeah. When the dictatorship is trying to, literally wipe out the country next to it and kill 43 million people, I got a problem with that. Yeah. So that's why we have a problem with Russia. And frankly, that's why I have a problem with Saudi Arabia. It doesn't mean we don't have to work with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a dictatorship, though. No. Britain's a monarchy, too. Right? There's a lot of monarchies in Europe. Actually, no, I totally disagree with you on this, too, Lakivi. There are a lot of monarchies in Europe, but they chose not to be dictatorships. They chose to be democracies. And frankly, even when they were monarchies, they were still. But absolutely, wrong. Anyway, like I already said, you sometimes have to work with dictators because you don't have a choice. Saudi Arabia has oil. That doesn't mean that we don't come down on him like a ton of bricks when he takes journalists working in America, kidnaps them and chops them into little pieces. Are you kidding me? So, I think we're dealing with trolls here who don't understand the concept, or who understand the concept and they're just trying to confuse stuff. You should always be critical of dictators. Thank you, Mustard. But that doesn't mean that you don't figure out how to work with them if you can. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Jeremy. World War II. The Russians sided with Hitler in World War II. Thank you, Mustard. A lot of people don't know that. The Russians were on Hitler's side. Totally on Hitler's side. And Hitler, 2 years into the war, stabbed the Russians in the back. That's why the Soviet Union went to war with Hitler, because he stabbed them in the back. They were his friend. The Russians signed an agreement with Hitler that let Hitler start World War II. The Russians are responsible for starting World War II. I mean, it's incredible. But guess what? Then the Russians, the Soviets, who were a horrific dictatorship, and worse than Russia today by far, horrific, the Soviet dictatorship, they killed tens of millions of their own people. Horrific dictatorship. Then we worked with the Soviets anyway, because collectively we didn't have a choice. We had to defeat the Nazis. So we worked with the Soviets to do that. Sometimes you work with bad guys to stop even worse guys. And frankly, I would call that a sign of maturity. That doesn't mean that you don't recognize the bad guys are bad. And it doesn't mean when you can, you stop the bad guys from being bad. And that's what we're doing with Russia. We will work with Russia when we can work with Russia. But if Russia's going to start World War III in Europe, yeah, thank you, Dawn. If Russia's going to start World War III in Europe, then yeah, we're going to get involved and try to stop it. Thank you, Ren, for the heart. And Dawn, was it Dawn with the dust? Oh, Timothy with a hat. That was it. Thank you, Timothy. Moscow's on fire, really? Cliff has a question. Oh, there's Cliff's question. I know it's fantasy, but couldn't U.S. citizens mount a fund to deliver, say, $300 million to Ukraine? Sure. I mean, I guess the part of the problem is, first of all, it's not enough. It's just not enough. I mean, this U.S. aid package is like $60 billion for Ukraine. 60 BN, right? I mean, a couple $100 million from the U.S. citizens would be nice. It's not enough. We could, though. Sure. It's not a bad idea. Then the question becomes whether money is enough, because, they need ammunition. And whether the money is enough to help them buy the ammunition, or whether the ammunition has to be our democracies, getting our acts together and making more, I'm going to look now and see what the latest is with this Moscow fire thing. That's pretty wild. Let me see. My defense Twitter usually is up on such things. Oh, Ian Garner, who's very good. Well, I've watched the whole interview. Grandstanding for Putin, bait for MAGA. Carlson didn't ask anything tough. Maybe some positive news on Evan Gershkovich's release. Don't bother watching. Hold on. I want to see what else Ian said here. Oh, that's it. Oh, hold on. Let me go back here. Putin on Gershkovich, I think an agreement is possible. Putin ends by falsely claiming it's Ukraine and the West who want war. He wants to negotiate. Pretty much immediately backs up on Gershkovich by ranting about espionage in the American Secret Service. Come on, Ian, where's more here? Come on. It's not Ian's fault, it's Twitter. So Twitter's melting down again. There's a freaking surprise. What a surprise. Twitter won't scroll past 10 tweets because Elon destroyed it. Freaking surprise. I'd open this and then let me go back again and see what Defense Twitter is saying about Moscow. Hang on, guys. All right. Let's see. Where is this? A lot of it's talking about... I'm not seeing this. If anything's in fire in Moscow, try to find the story because so far, ain't seeing it, guys. Ain't seeing it. So I would question what the source is on that. So, yeah. So I'm looking again. Nope. Nothing. So... Here, we'll see. Callum, did you find me something? Moscow burning? Okay, he found something. Hold on. I'm not sure who these other guys are. Yeah, I don't know who some of these guys are, though. Maybe multiple buildings burning in Moscow, but again, hold on. It depends who's claiming it. Let me see here. Oops, hang on a second. But do we trust these people? Here's my problem. Like Europe Central, I don't know what that is. With 2,000 followers, they're not trustworthy. That's the problem. I mean, a Twitter site with 2,000 followers says there's massive fires in Moscow. Maybe, but there's no reason to believe them. Yeah. Anyway, maybe, but we've got to find a real source here. And then a guy. Oh, the other guy got blocked. He's fake. Yeah, Callum, the second guy's a total fake. He's already blocked. Yeah. I mean, I already had him blocked, which means he's a baddie. Yeah, not finding anything about Moscow, guys. Again, might be true, but it's not public right now, so I would take it with a grain of salt as far as what you're seeing about Moscow. I mean, they might be true, but again, trust the source. What's the source is what I'm asking you. Jeffrey, the thing is, I'm old enough that I've seen enough stories get wrong. Thank you, Super Hornet. And what I don't like is, it's one thing for a major news service to report something. I'm going to trust them. They may get it wrong, but they try. Some guy with 2,000 Twitter followers is not anybody you should ever trust. Ever. Especially with this where it's like a random guy I've never heard of and a news source I've never heard of. They're not a news source. I would bet. So yeah. Look here. Nope. And as I said, well, I mean, a Ukrainian guy I like, but again, I mean, okay, Volodymyr Tretiak, he's good. He is sharing a picture of a major fire in Moscow, but again, where's he getting it from? It's clearly not his photo of Moscow, right? Yeah, we don't know. No. Yep. Anyway, so I'm trying to scroll up. Hello, more new messages. UN Watch. I know of UN Watch. They seem to be good. Yep, they do seem to be good. Now, another oil refinery is under attack near Krasnodar, in principle, in Russia. But, yeah, there's nothing. There's, nope. Just looking here again. Nope. Yeah, I'm not going to trust the Moscow stuff. No, I'm not going to trust the Moscow stuff. I don't think it may be real, but it's not real yet. Okay, nothing else there. What else we got, guys? There we go. What else we got? My dog is sleeping. I'm going to guess on the couch. Oh, no. She has many beds. This is the bed she's got that's under my plants behind me. You wouldn't be able to see it from here. There's a whole bed assembled under my plants, and she's in the middle of it. So she likes closed-in places, so it's one of her favorite little places to be. But I don't mind the idea of doing a crowdsourced money for Ukraine, Cliff. The thing is, I don't know if it's enough. I mean, they need a lot, I mean, the U.S., and I was looking into this, by the way. I know my dog does not snore, which is nice. That's true. But, yeah, I saw that. Micho's raising a New York Times story. That was interesting. I will say this. I felt like the New York Times story was what we call a nothing burger. There was nothing to it today. There's a New York Times story today saying, yes, it looks like a Ukrainian Patriot missile did in fact shoot down the plane that the Russians claim had prisoners of war on it. And I'm like, duh, right? I mean, A, I assumed Ukraine shot it down. B, everybody assumed it was a Patriot missile. Thank you, Bart. Everybody assumed it's a Patriot missile because of the way, I guess, the engine fell off. So I kind of feel like, what's new about that? So, yeah. I mean, so yeah, I saw the story, but I was like, okay. Right? I mean, that's what the Ukrainians should be using to shoot down Russian planes, and the Russians didn't tell them prisoners of war were on the plane. If they were even on there, we still don't even know that they were on there. The Russians have been provided no proof. The Russians claim that the Ukrainians shot down a Russian plane that had 65 prisoners of war on it. Ukrainians. First of all, the Russians lie all the time. Second of all, the Russians themselves killed 50 Ukrainian prisoners of war. They bombed them back in 2022 and pretended the Ukrainians did it. And they claimed, it was American weapons, the HIMARS, that blew up those Ukrainian prisoners of war. No, it was the Russians blowing it up, and the United Nations did an investigation and concluded the same thing. It wasn't the Ukrainians. So Russia could have easily done it again, blowing up this plane. Having said that, could it have been the Ukrainians with a Patriot missile? Of course it could. It's a Russian military plane that usually carries missiles. Of course the Ukrainians could have blown it up. But don't you think if there were 65 Ukrainian bodies blown up on that plane, the Russians would be having a field day, right? My God, you'd have video. Actually, here's the thing too. You'd have video. If you're the Russians, okay, and you've got a plane that had 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war and it's blown up, you want video showing every scrap of every body. Right? You want that all over Ukraine. You want every Ukrainian looking at that video and going, look how screwed up our country. Look how screwed up Zelensky is. Look how screwed up our military is. Look, is that your dead loved one? Is that your dead loved one? Right? They'd zoom in on people's tattoos so maybe you'd recognize it. Right? They wouldn't say, we're not going to give you any information and we're not going to give any proof that anybody actually died on the plane. Okay. Okay. Right? That's not the response Russia would give if the Ukrainians really killed 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war. The Russians would literally put up posters of the dead bodies to show the evil Ukrainians. Nothing. So, Janie, it's still, what's misinformation? You may be talking about Tucker. I'm not sure. In any case, yeah, so I still think Russia's lying about the plane. Because they'd go public if it were real. If it's real, if it's the truth. Truth is easy to sell. If it's the truth, like I said, just get video. Lots and lots and lots. Hell, don't even get video. Invite the freaking United Nations to come. Invite the Red Cross to come and see the bodies, right? I mean, okay, never. Sorry about that. I thought as much. Once I saw your thing, I thought she's talking Tucker, right? But invite the United Nations and the Red Cross to come and film the bodies, right? Wouldn't you do that? Of course you do that. Unless you set a bomb on, invite UNRWA, there you go. Or unless you blew up the plane yourself, unless you put a bomb on the plane, then you really don't want the United Nations or the Red Cross walking around looking at it, right? Or unless there were only the crew on the plane of 6 people and there weren't 65 prisoners of war, because 65 prisoners of war are going to leave a lot more body parts than 6 crew members. And if the United Nations comes and looks at the scene, they'll know. I think the Russians are just lying. Anyway. Oh, Gorilla. You're saying that because you're a Russian troll. So I'm glad you brought it up, though. So Gorilla's saying, I think we should cut all aid to Ukraine because they're a very corrupt nation. You know what nation is even more corrupt than Ukraine? Russia. Your mother, Russia. Russia is ranked around 140 on a list of countries out of 180. 180 is the most corrupt country. Number one's the best. I think Denmark was number one, the best country for corruption, or meaning least corruption. And the study just came out a week ago, 2 weeks ago, by Transparency Index, or it's called the Corruption Index. It's the study that everyone respects. It just came out, and it showed Ukraine was number 104 on the list of corrupt countries out of 180, so they're halfway there. They've been getting better every year for the last 12 years. Ukraine's been improving. Russia going down. They're not only going worse, but whereas Ukraine was 104 on the list out of 180, lower is worse, right? 180 is really bad. Ukraine was 104. Russia was like 140. Russia wasn't, it was, yeah. So give me a break. It's not one study. It's the study. Fun time. It's not one study. It's literally the study. It's the international study of corruption. It is the benchmark for what countries look at. So give me a break. Don't even. Don't even. I realize you guys don't have a choice but to defend the motherland, but not even a question on this. Actually, I want to double check. I want to make sure I didn't screw up on the Russia stuff, but I'm pretty sure. Let me see. Make sure I didn't pick the wrong. Yeah, Russia's 141 and Ukraine is 104. I was correct. Yep. I actually gave Russia a better ranking saying 140. They're actually 141, which is even worse. So, yeah. Somalia was the worst. Correct. Yep, you're right, Yael. That was a good memory, Yael. Israel was... Hang on, was Israel wasn't 34. They were worse than that. Israel was interesting because Israel was 33, but interestingly enough, UAE or Bahrain, UAE was 26, Israel was 33, and the rest of the Middle East was far worse, which is interesting. Yeah, thank you, Dawn. That's the URL, transparency.org. There you go. United States, I believe, was 23 or 24. Let's see, 24, which, could be better. Interestingly, we were actually, interestingly enough, we were doing better. And then during the Trump years, we sort of plummeted and became more corrupt. It says, I wonder why. Let me show you. Oops, there it is. Here. But you'll see it was doing very well under the Obama years. Trump comes in 2017, and you see it start to, that's our score. So that's our score going down. And when the score goes down, it means you're not doing as well. So it goes lower means we're in trouble. So it goes down under the Trump years. Biden comes in 2021, and what happens? The next year it goes up. Now, it hasn't gone up enough. It hasn't gone back to the Obama levels, but it was much better under the Obama levels. And under Trump, it went, so there. Thank you, Jorge, for following me. Do follow me, guys. I always forget to ask that. Do hit the like button as well on TikTok and Twitter, whatever the button is on TikTok and Twitter. On TikTok and YouTube, I always forget what the button's called. What else we got? YouTube? I think it's you need to, not you to, Ka. We use our verbs in the free world. We like our verbs. The Russians don't use verbs, by the way, a lot, which is always kind of funny with the trolls too. The Russians kind of skip, I think it's to be that they skip a lot, that verb. So it's always kind of funny when you see verbs missing, right? No, that's what I mean. Tulekivi, that's what I'm saying. I just remember, again, I studied Russian for a year, but it was a long time ago, but I remember verbs missing. You know what I mean? And I want to say Russia's losing, exactly. Verbs are not in the government budget, exactly. Or verbs are woke propaganda, exactly. Kelly says, okay, Kelly, are you seeing this looks like it's confirmed then? Kelly says 41 fire trucks and helicopters, 400 people evacuated. So but what's the source? Is this a source we're trusting here? Let me pull this up again. Yep, see if it pops up on, come on. You know what it is? The Tucker interview is out and it sort of sucked up all the news. So nobody's talking about whatever this fire is or whatever it is in Moscow. Nope, still not seeing. Still not seeing. I was going to say, unfortunately, the British press, it's a little late for them. So where are you seeing this, Kelly? I assume you're talking about the Moscow thing. Oh, it's on YouTube? Yeah, but Canal 13? What is that? Is that somebody we trust? Let me look here. I'm going to do a quick look at some of my Ukraine news sites, although it's a little late at night anywhere in Europe right now, or even Ukraine. Yeah, they've got Tucker Carlson releases interview. U.S. announces ban on import of Russian diamonds. Well, no. Fire breaks out in Perm-Krai, but that's not near Russia, I'm assuming. A gas pipeline. Is it? Perm-Krai? I don't know. Let me look at one more thing here. I'll look at Sky News, although it's a little late for Sky News. I know it's 2 a.m. And also Sky News, I think, already cut their news for the night. Putin claims the U.S. blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Oh, Vladimir, I only wish Biden had half the balls you think he does. There is a 0% chance that Joe Biden, who wouldn't even let Poland give MiG fighter jets to Ukraine, that Biden would have gone ahead and blown up the Nord Stream pipeline. I mean, again, I wish Biden had the balls to do something like that. I'm not trying to like him doing it, but there is a 0% chance that Joe, I'm afraid of everything Biden. Joe, I'm afraid of angering Putin. Who did it? It might have been the Ukrainians. I never thought they could pull it off, but it might have been the Ukrainians. Thank you, Jetta. And I have to say, if it is the Ukrainians, I'm kind of impressed. It's ballsy. I mean, the Ukrainians have every right to do it. It's just risky for them to do it. You know? But that's the thing. I love it. Tucker Carlson, who blew up Nord Stream? Putin. You, for sure. The former Fox host jokes that I was busy that day. Putin says, you personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi. Asked whether he has evidence NATO or the CIA were behind the blast, Putin says he won't go into details, but you should look for someone who is interested and who has capabilities. Well, okay, duh. Look for someone who's interested and has capabilities to blow it up. Yeah, duh. Just looking here. All the lies about Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Oh. Let me see here. Whatever. Yep, thank you. Who's that? Marie, thank you. Yeah, anyway, nothing on the fire, guys. I believe you, but again, I'm still not liking that it's sources that I don't trust. There's no real source. It could be something real, but there's no real source reporting on it, and that should give you pause. Don't believe guys online who tell you stuff. They aren't paying me, but I wish they would, Armand. But if you'd like to pay me, I do this for free and I do it full time. So if folks would like to pay me, hit right now on TikTok, give me some gifts. On YouTube, you can sign up for a membership. You can also go to aravosis.com and give me a generous donation via PayPal. There's lots of ways to support my work. I do this for free and I do it full time. This is my job. So you can help me pay the bills. Thank you. I wish they paid me. I wish. Yeah. So still not saying anything here, guys. Oh, excuse me. Yep. Nada, nada. Thank you, Cindy. Oh, who was that? House of Le Pew and Cindy. Oh yeah, Le Pew, you're back. Good, you came back. Okay, let's see it. Flower Lady, thank you. Thank you, Tina. Yeah, still nothing here about Moscow on fire. Again, it may be on fire, but nothing really. Nothing, honey. We got nothing about Moscow being on fire. Oh well. So exactly, more careless smoking. Yes, this is one of my Goodwill specials for $5 at the Goodwill. I was very, very proud of my little jacket, and it fit me. I was like, and it's actually very. No, it does. It looks really nice. Like it's a nice little jacket for $5. Do I regret working for the UN? Yes. Horrible place. I mean, and psychologically horrifically damaging. They are bullies. They discriminate. I mean, it's a bigoted place of work. The United Nations discriminates against people. They don't care. They're bullies. It is literally a bully battering workplace. It is the worst workplace I've ever seen in my entire life. And they're overpaid, spoiled, rich people from around the world. And that's all it is. They fake the hiring process. The hiring process is illegal. Thank you, House of Le Pew. Literally, they break all the rules to hire people, which breaks all of the rules. I mean, it is the most corrupt workplace I have ever witnessed in my 35 years in the professional workplace. Unbelievable, the corruption at the UN. And again, like I said, the bullies, the brats, and the incompetence. I mean, my boss at UNDP, United Nations Development Program, was the communications director. Incompetent, didn't know what she was doing, and the most corrupt person I've ever worked for. Absolutely. She and her deputy, both of them. Easy to Google who they are. One was American, one was South African. Corrupt as hell. But people fail upward in this country, in this world, you know? You're bad at what you do, you're corrupt as hell, and the next guy hires you, and the next guy hires you until I spoke out. You know? I spoke out and I left. But people don't speak out. People just suck it up. And they get bullied and bullied and bullied. So yeah, no, I wish I didn't go to the UN. It is a horrific organization, corrupt as hell. Should the U.S. support the UN? I don't know. The headquarters, maybe. The UN headquarters in New York, where everyone gets together, maybe. The agencies, I would say no. I'd say cut the funding to the agencies. Do what they're doing with the Palestinians. Cut the funding, and tell them I want the whole thing, but. You can't believe the amount of money we spend on the UN that in my life as the United Nations headquarters of the United Nations Development Program, but also I talked to people at UNICEF. People at UNICEF said UNICEF is horrible. And I even said, I was like, but UNICEF, that's got to be good, right? Everyone loves UNICEF. Oh, I was told, are you kidding? UNICEF? Yeah, UNICEF's horrific. UNESCO obviously is horrific. We all know that. But no, it saddens me because I joined the UN thinking, my God, the United Nations, the pinnacle of, working to make the world a better place. Corrupt as they are, all about money, and they are corrupt as hell. No, horrific organization. And as I said, if you're the worst people in the world and the meanest people and the most backstabbing people in the world, which is what they were working at the UN, I mean, they're all bullies. They were all bullies. They were all my bosses and even the staff. They were all bullies. How can you save the world if you're literally the worst people on the planet? You can't save the world if you're the worst. The whole place should be gutted. It really should. I'd be fine with cutting off all our money, frankly, to the UN and telling them, change. They need to cut half the staff. I mean, my God, we had staff writing these stupid stories each week. And they're just dumb little stories about a great program we did in Zimbabwe. And that was her job for the week, writing 2 things like that a week. I could write the damn thing in an hour, 2 of them a week. And she's getting $130,000 a year tax-free. So ridiculous. Blech. Anyway, don't get me going on them. Well, I know what IEA is, but I'd be curious how IAEA really works because I've seen the UN and it's corrupt as hell. So trust me, whenever I hear about any UN agency, it makes me very suspicious as to who those people are because I've met very few people at the United Nations who were not corrupt as hell. It is your worst nightmare of bureaucrats from around the world, your worst bureaucrats from, including my boss was American. She was the most corrupt boss I've ever had. I've never had a corrupt boss before. A boss who literally told me to break the rules. I've never had that. I mean, my God, ever. A client or a boss. Thank you, Marie. God. Anyway. I know. I never did get to know the UN Watch guy. I should have. I never did contact him because I didn't know. I saw him when I was there. Like I saw him online, but I didn't know who he was. You know what I mean? So I didn't feel safe reaching out to him because I was like, who is this guy? Right? So I'm going to guess the State Department feels we know the UN's bad, but we can work with it and make it a better place. Right? Where does the UNICEF money go? I guarantee you a lot of it goes to headquarters. You know? Now, it depends. Each UNICEF is unique because each country raises money in that country for the local UNICEF. Having said that, they're on the same pay scale as the rest of the UN. They're getting paid gobs of money. It's tax-free. They're getting a ridiculous retirement plan, like you can never imagine the retirement plan they're getting. The number of holidays. So, no, I'm telling you, if you care about children, I would give money to anybody other than UNICEF. Do not ever give a dime of your money to the United Nations, ever. There are always, you care about Palestinians, there's lots of groups doing Palestinian relief. You care about children, there's lots of groups helping children. There's lots of groups helping refugees. There's lots of them in the world. You don't have to give it to the United, I'm telling you, if you give money to the United Nations, it's going to rich people at the top. And they're corrupt as hell. There's just no reason to. Give it to, I like smaller groups anyway, because smaller groups are hungry. Smaller groups don't spend as much money on salaries. And they work because they're smaller. They need to. You know, I wouldn't trust the Red Cross either, frankly. They're too big. I don't know enough about the Red Cross. The United Nations, I know. And not just there, my God. People I knew at UNAIDS. I was looking, when I was leaving the UN, I was talking to friends at UNAIDS. The AIDS body, right? Because I've done a ton of work on AIDS over the years, and HIV issues in Africa, and I've sort of developed an expertise on AIDS in Africa and the history there and everything, just because of all this kind of work I've done over the years. And talked to my friend at UNAIDS, and they told me, I'm not helping you get a job here. I said, what do you mean? I said, come on, it can't be that bad. You know, at least I could still be in the UN system. John, it's horrible. I refuse to help you get a job here. My friend at UNAIDS refused to help me because they said it was so horrific working there. And again, this person sounded like I sounded at the UN, like they were in tears of how bad it was. So yeah, don't give the United Nations a dime, a freaking dime, ever, ever, ever again. There is always someone else you can give money to. There are more than enough charities, more than enough organizations. So, Salvation Army, I'm not a big fan of homophobes. The Salvation Army, by the way, you know, is an evangelical activist group. They're evangelical Christians. They're religious right. People don't really realize that. I know a lot about the Salvation Army. It's this big, I don't know whether they're internationally, but they're this big group in America that raises money at Christmas and everything else. They're not just faith-based. They're literally religious right. They are evangelical, conservative evangelical Christians, and they lobby in Washington against gay and trans people for starters. Okay? When you give money to the Salvation Army, you are literally helping lobby against gay people in Washington and trans people in Washington. If that's your shtick, go for it. If you care about that stuff, don't give the Salvation Army a dime. No, they're another one. But again, there's goodwill. There's lots of other organizations. Thank you, Boink, for the gift. There's lots of other organizations out there. That's the thing. It's very easy to find somebody else to give money to. You know? I mean, Salvation Army is horrific. And they keep trying to like get away from it, and we're not that way. Literally, evangelical Christian lobbying group is what they are. They're evangelical Christians. And I don't mean like good evangelicals. They are religious right Christians. As a kid, I had no idea. Salvation Army's like Salvation Army. They wear the little uniform. Google it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, United Way. I think United Way is okay. Does Goodwill have problems too? I didn't even know that. I mean, but again, you can Google around and see. And honestly, my guess would be find a local charity. You can probably find local groups that help people that you can donate clothes to, right? That you can donate. I mean, you donate your clothes, you get the same deduction giving to the Salvation Army than you do giving to a local group. You might as well do that, you know? There's lots of groups. Local veteran. My mom used to donate clothes to the veteran. I don't know why. It was interesting. She always used to give to the veterans groups, which I thought was interesting. That was always her thing. We would give clothes away to I forget what it was called. It had a name in the Chicago area. I can't remember something vets. But anyway, AmVets. I think it was AmVets, like for American vets. And for years, Mom would give money to them. Not give money. She would give our clothes and stuff. But again, they were I think they were local. Are they national or are they local? But Mom liked them. I think they had a scandal at one point because I remember her finding the scandal and showing me, and I was like, oh God, you know. So you do have to be careful. Yeah, no, it's terrible. Right, United 24. I'm with you, Sammy. Donate to United 24. That's the Ukrainian charity. That I agree. On that I agree. Actually, I have to talk to Vlad. We need to find like another fundraiser we can do and see if there's something we can do that would get, you know, there is an MVET National. Okay, they're not just local. Cat shelter. See, no, that's great. If you can donate for, I think I'm more in an animal shelter mood anyway lately. I'm kind of annoyed with human beings lately. You know, dogs don't vote for bad people. I could see helping dogs and cats. That I could see. You know, thanks, Maxime. A Sasha-thon. That's true. I could do. Well, Vlad, we have to see. I told you the last fundraiser Vlad and I did was very bad. Did not go well at all for Ukraine. But we need to see about maybe doing another fundraiser for Ukraine. And maybe it is something as simple as raising it for United 24. I don't know. An animal shelter in Ukraine, I would love to. I mean, the thing is, we've got to find, I mean, you know, I just have to find somebody we trust. You know what I mean? Or Vlad knows them and trusts them. Because you never know. You know, at least the reason I've been doing it through Vlad is because, you know, Vlad's worked with my nephew for 7 years. So he always knew Vlad was a good guy. I've now worked with Vlad for 2 years. And Vlad at least vets the local groups we give money to. So at least there's some due diligence to see that they're real. You know, I don't want to just like pick an animal shelter and we hope the animal shelter isn't corrupt, because they could be, you know, people just steal money, right? I remember You Animals. Yulia recommends that. Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah, because I trust Yulia on this stuff. Yeah, You Animals. I remember that group because I remember it's a funny name, You Animals. No, we'll have to see. We'll have to see about that, because I don't mind doing some fundraisers for the animals. What I wanted to do too is I wanted to try to do some fundraisers basically for me and the animals. I mean, basically fundraise for my show and have 50% of the money go for a cause, which I don't normally do it that way. We do it that way for our auctions and stuff. I don't do it that way for the fundraising, and I've been wanting to. And like, I would love to do it, you know, maybe with the animals, and it literally is a fundraiser for my stuff, but 50% of the money we're given to the, you know, to the Ukrainian charity, you know? So even animals that eat me, I would help a lion or a tiger. I would do that. But yeah, I trust Yulia for sure on that stuff. Yep. What about gay Ukrainians, Gunther? I don't know if there's any gay groups that need support. I think we'd still want to try to find it war related in some way, right? Because I think raising money for like LGBT groups in Ukraine in general is too disconnected. Whereas animal groups, they're literally helping animals affected by the war, right? I like that. But I'd want somehow to be helping groups that are affected by the war. You know, children, which we've helped before. I'll talk to Vlad and see if he's got ideas for other kind of. This is funny. It's 7:38. Since the news was done an hour and 10 minutes ago, I thought for sure we'd only go another half hour and we could go to Discord. But we're already at an hour and 40 minutes into this, guys, or almost an hour and 40 minutes. So Biden will speak from the White House. That's interesting. Maybe he's going to speak about the Ukraine and Israel stuff. I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. Oh, anyway. All right. I always like supporting. I always like doing stuff to support the kids if we can. Yeah. I'll ask Vlad. He's been kind of quiet this week. Yeah, Biden's not talking tonight, is he? I haven't seen the Tucker interview yet, of course, because we're here, Jordy. But what's he doing that's laughable? Just curious. World Soup Kitchen seems to do good work. I don't like how much they self-promote, to be honest. I don't like that. He's a real self-promoter. And I don't really like people that walk around and go, me, me, me. Look how many people I've helped. I mean, you have to do it to raise money to a degree. He rubs me the wrong way. It just rubs me the wrong way. And again, it's a fine line because, like, for me, I need to tell you about the good stuff I do. So you help me and support my work more and everything else, or raise money for the causes. But there's something a little too, a crisis happens and he's there with the microphone and you're like, okay, I get it. But he's been very helpful. I mean, he's helped a lot of stuff. He helped some stuff we did. We were raising money for the National Guard in D.C. We were raising money for the National Guard. And I think did he help us with that? I'm trying to remember if he helped us with that. I'm trying to remember now. Well, after the insurrection, I think he did help us with some of that. I think he did. So anyway. All right, guys, I'm going to get going. Yeah, I want to see what Biden's doing since you guys say he's coming on TV soon. Let me turn my TV on. But you're late, Dawn. You're very late because I'm an hour and 40 minutes into this and we're closing up. Sorry. Yeah, Randy, it's tough. I mean, it's tough knowing who to trust, I think, forgiving. Of course it is. Okay, yeah, but I don't know if Biden's responding to the special counsel report or not. So, thank you, Springtrap. Now, was that just a gift or did you have a question? I don't want to hang up yet before I know if you had a question there or whether that was just a contribution. If so, thank you. Over on YouTube. Let me know. Whoop. How was the report? What report? What report? Oh, we've got another Russian pretending to be Latino. There is more times going on in the world. More times? So stop things about your queen agenda. He's the king now, not the queen. There are more times? You almost became a t-shirt there, my friend, just so you know. The Queen Agenda. I could sell those t-shirts. The Queen Agenda. The Aravosis Report. Come for the dog. Stay for the Queen Agenda. The Queen Agenda. Yes, exactly. Yes, Queen. Oh my God. Oh, Springtrap does have something. Putin said he asked Clinton if Russia could join NATO, but Clinton said no. If Clinton had said yes, Putin said he would have joined. Can you imagine? Can you freaking imagine? First of all, Putin, why would Putin ask Clinton? Was Putin in 1999? He may have just been there. Putin may have just come to power as Clinton was leaving. Thank you, Alexander. Clearly, it would have been a huge mistake to let Vladimir Putin as the leader of Russia into NATO. Can you freaking imagine? Can you imagine? That man? He'd be Orban on steroids. I can't even imagine. I mean, there's an argument to be made that, because at the time we thought about it, people were sort of positing as theory, should we invite Russia into NATO? Could we finally get Russia to stop being insane by making them, one with us, this kind of stuff? But I mean, in retrospect, you're a brutal, murderous dictator who wants to run a fascist state. I mean, I don't want that in NATO. And again, Hungary was bad enough, as Jeff says. We want Hungary on steroids? Unbelievable. Thank you, Christine. I could also use the goat for the gifts, but maybe that's too much. I think a screaming goat for the gifts may sound like a little too like, you know what I mean? Like whether it's a little too angry or something. I don't know. Oh, it's Thursday. Remember Saturday morning, We do have our coffee talk Saturday morning, every Saturday morning, almost every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time US. That's Washington, D.C. time. I get together on TikTok and Discord, and it is a special get-together for the paid monthly subscribers, the people who subscribe monthly on TikTok, the SNN folks, our mods can tell you how. We go on TikTok, and simultaneously I'm on Discord for the YouTube monthly subscribers, the Ko-fi subscribers, the Twitch, and the... Who am I missing? Twitch and Ko-fi, Discord, Twitch, YouTube. Yeah, those are the 4. So all of you guys, make sure you link your accounts to Discord and then join us on Discord. It's automatically set up every week on Discord, so you'll see the event. It's already listed. There's already 12 people who signed up. And we get together and we hang out, but it's nice. It's only for the paid subscribers, so it's a smaller group. Vlad very often joins us from Ukraine. Last weekend he didn't. He was on vacation, so I try not to always make poor Vlad join us. But we have Vlad join us and give us an update. I think this week would be interesting because of the change in the military leadership. Could be very interesting. And Putin and this BS with Putin could be interesting too. But yeah, I'm gonna go because Biden's probably gonna talk soon. I want to see this. Thanks, Roy. Appreciate it. Okay, I hear you, dog. 1 second. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. But remember, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern for the paid subscribers. Thank you for your gifts, guys. Thanks for joining us. A little bit long tonight, but what the hell? It's kind of fun when we hang long, so always kind of fun. Oh, and I'm sorry, Douglas. Was the UN always corrupt or did it evolve? I don't know. My suspicion is that a body that is corrupt in 2024 probably was corrupt in 1953. Right? I mean, let's face it. I think the United Nations is an amalgam of the world. And you take the level of ethics of the world, but the average, throw the whole world together in a blender and take the average level of ethics. I can't even imagine how unethical that is, right? Right? It's pretty unethical, the average. That's what the UN is. Imagine what the world's ethics were in the 1950s in terms of when probably all these businesses were corrupt versus today. Today, they're probably better, maybe, but I suspect they were always corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they have power and they have money. I don't think they were ever any better, sadly. But I'd be curious to people who knew them back then. I only know them now. Thank you, Critter. Okay, guys. Thank you for the gift, by the way. I saw it, but I almost forgot it as I was closing up. So thank you for that, Douglas. All right, guys. Thank you all for the gifts. Thank you, Jetta. And I will see you all tomorrow. All right. Have a good night. Burp. Boop, as we say.